Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here. Merry Christmas Part 1. Christmas Eve. It's here, y'all. It's here, and you know what? Out in the West Valley of Phoenix, which is where I live, it's rainy. Rainy and 69 degrees. Nice. Yeah, it is nice. It's funny, I'm like, oh, it's Christmas Eve, and it finally looks like Halloween out here in the desert because the leaves have all fallen and it's a little bit rainy today. So very reminiscent of what most people experience, you know, towards the end of October there. So yeah, here we are, Christmas Eve. I hope everyone is having a great holiday season so far. You know, I know for some holidays can be kind of weird for various reasons. But hopefully, you know, no matter what's going on, whether it's joyful or maybe there's some of that weird stuff, I hope that, you know, anything that's negative can be cast aside and you can have a lovely handful of days here, you know, especially leading up to the new year. And of course, new year, new beginnings, new chapters, all that kind of fun stuff. So I hope everyone is having a good one so far. Let me know in the chat, whether you're watching live or watching after the fact, let me know what you've got going on to close out your year. I know a lot of people don't have to go back to work until January. That's got to be pretty awesome. For myself, I'm going to be going over, my family's going over to my sister's house today. We're going to eat a bunch of food, play some games, sing some karaoke, all that kind of fun stuff. So if there's anything worth sharing from that experience, then I'm sure you'll see it pop up somewhere here on YouTube or maybe in the Discord or something fun like that. So yeah, let me know what you guys are doing, and yeah, should be a fun few days here. We've got a lot to get through, so I'm gonna say what's up to everybody. I totally get that maybe you guys are, you know, getting ready to go to church, or maybe you're putting together some food or something, or you're just getting yourself ready to hang out with friends or family. So feel free to just listen while you work, so to speak, because we're going to go through, I think, 5 chapters today. And then we've got 4 that I'm going to get into tomorrow because it's a Christmas story here, Terrifier 3. And I want to have it wrapped up by tomorrow. So yeah, I'm going to say what's up to everybody, and then we're going to dive right in. We got Lamontre Gillard in the house. How are you doing, Lamontre? So good to see you, brother. We got Russell Dorsey. How are you doing, Russell? Says, what's up, everyone? Let's smash that like button if you haven't already. Hi, Davey, and everyone in the chat. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas, everyone. Right back at you, Russell. Yeah, guys, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. All that good stuff. I'm not going to hound you too much. It's the holidays. So just thank you so much for spending some time here. We got Joe from Media Poop Shoot, one of our great channel members. How you doing, Joe? Great to see you. Hope you and yours are having a good holiday season so far. We got Ty Lee in the chat as well. You know, no one else. Like, there's a handful of people. It looks like we've got 9 folks watching right now, which for Christmas Eve, I think is not too shabby. You know, I know that maybe there are a few people that stream on these bigger holidays, you know, but, you know, people are hanging out with their families and doing all that kind of stuff. I really like it too, Joe, because I grew up in Southeast Alaska where it rains like 300 days out of the year. There's precipitation. So anytime it rains out here, I'm very, very happy to see, no matter what time of year it is. Holy cow, we got Ray in the house. How are you doing, Ray? Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're having a lovely, lovely day. And maybe we can make it, you know, or maybe we not make it nicer. Maybe we can add a little bit to the lovely day. How about that? We got Kelly H hanging out. Thank you so much for joining us, Kelly. Thank you for being a channel member. Really do appreciate you. And I didn't even say thank you for being a channel member to Ray, but Ray, yes, thank you for being a channel member. Really do appreciate it. Kelly, what do you got going on for the holidays? Let us know. We got Papa John 1622 in the house, another one of our great channel members. Thank you so much for being a member, Papa John. Hope you are doing well this Christmas season and that you've got some fun stuff planned. Hey there, Adrian. What's happening, brother? Merry Christmas to you as well, man. Thank you for hanging out with us. Paula Fitzhenry, what's happening, Paula? Merry Christmas. Hope you're having a good one. Watching live, but have Die Hard on in the background. Wow, that's amazing that Die Hard is the backdrop. I get to be the main event. I like that. All right, here we go. Here we go. How are you doing, Gene? Merry Christmas to you as well. Hope all is well for you and yours out there. I'm gonna have a sip of my coffee here. Yeah, I'm still drinking coffee. I had a little, my mom made, I love my mom's Christmas cookies. They've been a staple of Christmas my whole life. It's just, you know, it's a sugar cookie with frosting and sprinkles. But it's just so good. So friggin' good. So I've got those to munch on if I so desire. Yeah. Gene, what are you getting into for the holidays? Let me know. Oh, hey there, Michaela. Hope you're doing well. Also, Merry Christmas to you and yours. Hey, we've got Kyle Curtis Flett, one of our great channel members. How are you doing, Kyle? Merry Christmas to you and your family, sir. I hope it's a good one for you guys. And look at that. Ty Lee dropping a $5 super chat. Doesn't even want to say anything. Ty just wants to drop a little love there. Thank you so much, Ty. I really do appreciate you making the holidays more cheery over here in the Deathray household. Yeah, Christmas cookies, man. They're really good. And you know what's funny is I ended up grabbing that plate of them because I'm a fatty. And the grandkids were like all snobby about my mom's Christmas cookies. They like, one of them didn't even, there's a whole bunch of grandkids in the family, but there's a couple littles. One of them didn't even want to try. I don't understand what that is. Like a child that doesn't want to try a cookie. I have no idea. And then the other one was like, eh. And I'm just like, you guys are terrible and I'm going to eat your cookies now. So there we go. Works out for everyone. I'm just happy to have a couple days off work. Heck yeah, Ty. What do you do for work, Ty? I mean, you don't have to share if you don't want to, but I'm just curious. I'm a curious kind of guy. We got Gory Tiger in the house. What's happening, Gory? So great to see you. Thank you for joining us, bud. Okay. Let's see here. I think we're good to go. So guys, the last time we left off, we got, and I think the last stream was a members only stream. I think so. So if you missed the previous chapters, if you're a channel member, you can just pop on over. You can check those out. If you're not a channel member, for as low as $1, you can sign up for a month. And you can check out, I think I've done a few of those streams for channel members only. I think I might end the book on a members only stream as well. So just a little incentive to, jump on over there and grab a membership. Also, guys, just a reminder for those of you who aren't members right now, of course, like showing up for the streams, liking, sharing, hitting the hype button, all that stuff is awesome. That's all free, which is really cool that you can do that. And it's, really easy to do. However, I do want to let you know that in 2026, I'm starting a horror movie club. So it's like a book club where independently we'll watch 4 movies a month. There's going to be a couple like optional movies if you want to add in. So we'll watch them on our own. And then twice a month, we will meet in a members only stream and we'll discuss the movies. Now they're going to be like thematic. Okay. So it's not just going to be like, maybe there will be some pockets where it is just kind of, they may not seem connected, but what I want to do, even if I don't have a theme, like, for example, since Scream 7 is coming out at the end of February, I thought it would be cool to go through the Scream films and watch those with the horror movie club and discuss them with, the channel members. And so, we'll discuss the themes throughout the movies, but we'll also throw in some, the extra movies would be stuff like, Wes Craven's New Nightmare would be like mixed in there because it's got that meta-textual kind of thing going on. So we could discuss that, maybe even Jason Lives, because I think Jason Lives is like the first meta horror film. Everyone credits New Nightmare, but Jason Lives did it way before, almost, 7 years before. Maybe there's another one before that. I'm not sure. But then like with Evil Dead Burn, you know, we'll go through all the Evil Dead movies, but there might be pockets where it's just a thematic kind of thing. But I just want to let you guys know, if you become either a second tier or a top tier channel member, you can join in on the horror movie club, which should be pretty fun. We're going to take it all the way through 2026. And yeah, I thought that would be a fun little thing to do for channel members there. Holy cow, we got Stephanie in the house. How are you doing, Steph? Thank you so much for joining us. No worries, you haven't missed anything. I'm just saying hi and blah, blah, blahing to everybody. So no worries at all. Hope you're doing well. Merry Christmas Eve to you, Steph. Who else do we have here? Merry Crisis, bitches. Yes, that's... yeah, it feels like that a little bit over here on my side of things. I can't even talk. Prince is jumping in to say Merry fucking Christmas, y'all. Merry fucking Christmas to you, Prince. I hope you're having a good one, brother. Stephanie sends in a $5 super sticker. I love it. I have to go on over to YouTube to take a look at it because StreamYard won't let me look at it. But it's this cool like hippo. I'm sure you guys can see it because you're on the YouTube side. This hippo like fist pumping and it says hype. I love it. I think that's a hippo. Yeah, there we go. Thank you so much, Steph. You're too sweet. Really appreciate you. Russell says, I think Strangers Chapter 3 is going to be overshadowed by Scream 7. They're both in February. Yeah, I just don't think anyone cares about the Strangers. Other than like how much you would care about watching a very slow car accident happen. Like very slow, like, you know, no one's going to get hurt, but like maybe it'll be funny. I think that's kind of how people feel about these Strangers movies. And then I think there's something else coming out in February, isn't there? Maybe I'm wrong about that. But yeah, I mean, Scream 7's going to overshadow everything in the horror sphere, probably. You know, once the Bone Temple Pilots comes out, it's going to be even more Scream 7, much to the chagrin of our lady Ray in the chat. As I was talking about what the horror movie club is going to be, and I mentioned Scream, I'm just like, I'm wincing because I'm like, I'm sure Ray is like crinkling her nose at me. But you know, once Scream 7 is out, then we're totally moving on. In my head, I've already moved on to Evil Dead Burn. Like that's where my head and my heart is at. But since I'm on the content creation side of things, like I can't ignore Scream 7. And I do really enjoy the first 4 movies. So I'm hoping that this one kind of brings it back to all of that. Bro, a giant shit would take over Strangers Chapter 3. Exactly, Joe. Yeah, I haven't even seen chapters 1 and 2. I've not heard any encouraging words. So there we go. Okay, Prince says, so I've started my yearly tradition movie themed week. I'm finishing Holdovers and Wonka. Christmas Vacation next. I still haven't seen Christmas Vacation this season, so I'm guessing that's going to happen with the family. That's one of the big ones we watch in the family. I'd say Vacation, A Christmas Story, and Scrooged are like the 3 big ones that we watch. Yeah, I love all the Evil Dead movies. It's my favorite horror franchise. I don't know if I've told you that, Joe. I know we're new buds. But yeah, Evil Dead is my absolute favorite horror franchise. Yeah, me too. Yeah, because I just think Evil Dead Burn's going to give us something a lot more exciting, you know. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Scream has been it's funny. It's a franchise that's just never broken its own mold. You know, it's just like it is by the numbers. And I think that's part of the reason for its success is that it's been so consistent. I think maybe a little too consistent, unfortunately, as far as like the way they tell their stories. And then I thought 5 and 6 were just not very good. So yeah, we could do a watch party of Christmas Vacation over on the Discord. That'd be fun. Yeah, I totally hear you on that one, Joe. I grew up with so I'm the youngest of 5 kids. A few of my siblings saw A Christmas Story in the theater when it first came out. So as long as I can remember, which is probably, you know, as far as like my Christmas memories, probably like 87-ish. you know, we had a VHS copy and we would watch that movie every Christmas Eve. So this is years before the TBS 24-hour streaming or, you know, playing of that movie. So fortunately, we were like on the ground level of the Christmas Story love. So that movie to me is very special because it predates all of the marketing and the oversaturation. But it is a movie that has become very, I mean, within the last 25 years, I would say, very oversaturated. But I did really enjoy the sequel that they just put out a few years ago called A Christmas Story Christmas, I believe. I really liked that. I thought that was an awesome, worthy legacy sequel. They bring back a lot of the original actors, like the little kids that didn't really do anything as far as acting. Those guys came back. There's some really great moments. There's good emotion in the movie. It's to me, I think it's a worthy follow-up. But yeah, I mean, Christmas Vacation is in there. Like, it's tough. Scrooged or Christmas Vacation. Those are like the two that for me are like, it's tough to tell which one I like the most out of those. Yeah. Oh my God. Bruce. What a dude. Same, Ty. Yeah, that's what I look for. Is I like the wildness of Evil Dead for sure. Yeah, I hear you for sure. I think that they're I don't know. I think like the look of Ghostface and everything, like the iconography of Scream is maybe like better than, you know, the height that the movies reach. When the first two movies came out, it was like, I remember when that first sequel came out, it was very exciting. But yeah, it's been very samey. So, okay, let's go ahead and dive into the book, guys. I'm gonna have a sip of water and then we'll get going. Holy cow, 16 people watching. That is amazing for Christmas Eve. Thank you guys so much for spending some of the holiday with me. I really do appreciate you. I understand if everyone can't stay the entire time. We've all got things to do. But if you drop on in, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. All that good stuff. And yeah, let's go ahead. I'm going to try not to... Guys, I've been sitting like this and reading, and then my back starts going, what are you doing, dude? Like, who do you think you are? You know, stop doing that. So I'm going to try to sit like a normal person. As normal as I can be, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm gonna dip the music down here a little bit and then we'll get going. Okay, guys, let me know if the music is like too loud or distracting or anything like that. And then like we've done with the previous chapters here, once I'm done, I'll, you know, take a break and hang out with you guys and kind of catch up. All right, one last sip there, and here we go. Chapter 18. Guys, we're on page 191 of 270. So chapter 18 starts off. David Collazo stood in front of the white metal fence that surrounded Santa's village. It wasn't much of a barrier security-wise, barely 3 feet high, but it kept the kids from all rushing Santa at once, and that's really all it needed to do. As security jobs went, this was a pretty sweet gig. Yeah, he had to deal with parents who were upset that their kid didn't get to see Santa before some other kid did, or who thought their precious little one should get to spend a little extra time talking to Santa because they were special. But those were minor annoyances compared to some of the jobs he'd been on. Working private security could be a mixed bag, but all in all, he liked being an employee of Safeguard Solutions. His wife liked it too. He used to work as a cop in Miles County, but 6 years ago, he was one of the first patrol officers on scene at the coroner's office after the coroner and a pair of EMTs were slaughtered by whoever had stolen the body of Art the Clown. Jesus, what a mess that had been. After that night, his Mary Ann had given him a choice: find a safer job or find a new wife. He hadn't needed to think it over. He still had nightmares about that scene at the coroner's office. Being a security guard wasn't completely safe. Some jobs carried more risks than others, but Mary Ann understood that. As long as he wasn't in danger of being carved up by a psychotic clown or his demented followers, she was good. Sir, excuse me, sir? A woman with curly brown hair came up to him, a little boy, presumably her son, in tow. She wore a festive red jacket, Christmas ornament earrings, and an unhappy scowl. Tears ran down the boy's face. Here we go, David thought. Yes, ma'am. My son has been waiting an hour to see Santa. An hour! Santa's been feeding his damn reindeer for almost 20 minutes now. When is he coming back? I don't have all day to stand around here with my thumb up my ass. I'm behind on my Christmas shopping, and I need to finish it today. The woman wasn't exactly yelling, but she was damn close to it. The boy paid no attention to her, though. He was giving David a calculating look, as if waiting to see if Mommy's bad attitude was going to get him what he wanted. Seemed like being a pain in the ass was Mom's modus operandi, and from the way the kid was looking at him, David figured it worked most of the time. Not on his watch, though. Ma'am, mall employees are entitled to a 30-minute lunch break for shifts 6 hours or longer. David was in private security, though, and his company gave their workers a whole hour for lunch and a 45-minute rest break. So suck it, Santa. He has at least 10 minutes left. I'm sure that when his break is over. How are you sure? Has he been texting you? Are you in radio contact with him? Are the two of you telepathic? What guarantee do I have that the lazy bastard will be back on time? David noticed that some of the other parents standing in line were looking in their direction, and a number of them were scowling too. If Bill didn't get back soon, it looked like David would have a minor riot on his hands. The dumbass was probably smoking in the goddamn bathroom again. Bill thought he was so slick about it, but everyone who worked in Santa's village knew. A couple of breath mints didn't cover up the smell of smoke that clung to his outfit. But now that he thought about it, he realized the photographer hadn't come back either. When he'd seen that the crowd was getting ugly, well, uglier, he'd gone in search of Bill. That had been 5, maybe 10 minutes ago. David hadn't been a cop long, but he still had a cop's instinct. He still had a cop's instincts. And his were telling him that something wasn't right here. But at that moment, a loud cheer went up from both of the kids and their parents, and David forgot about his instincts. He turned and was relieved to see that Bill was back. He'd come out from behind the fake castle carrying a large red sack full, presumably, of presents, and he was skipping? That was bizarre. Bill was a serious guy, and David couldn't imagine him being silly like that. Plus, this dude was way skinnier than Bill. And Bill was thinner than Charlie. David didn't know who this guy was. And what was up with that mask he was wearing? The skin almost looked real, but it sagged in places and appeared loose, like it might slip off at any moment. Weird. Maybe mall management had called around and found someone to take over for Bill. If so, good. The poor bastard had already done his shift and most of Charlie's. Quote-unquote Santa skipped to the throne, dropped the bag of presents with an audible thud, then waved with both hands and blew kisses to the crowd. He then plopped his bony ass onto the throne and mimed drawing a hand across his brow as if the effort of coming out here had exhausted him. The kids ate it up, laughing, clapping, and cheering. The parents looked bemused at first, but they decided to go along with the fun. They smiled and clapped, but with considerably less enthusiasm than their offspring. It's about fucking time, the curly-haired woman muttered. She promptly forgot about David's existence, grabbed her son's hand, and hurriedly dragged him back toward the line to see Santa. No doubt she'd made sure someone would hold her boy's place, or else. David was relieved to see her go. The fewer entitled suburban parents he had to deal with, the better. He was supposed to keep his eyes on the crowd at all times, but he'd been there since 7 a.m. and was bored out of his fucking mind. He decided to watch Skinny Santa and see what other tricks the guy had up his sleeve. Might be good for a laugh or two. Skinny Santa pointed to a little girl with long brunette hair. She was fifth in line, yet he waved her over. The girl looked at her mother, who smiled. Go ahead, go see Santa. The red-headed elf undid the plastic chain blocking the path to the throne, and the girl ran up to Skinny Santa and stood in front of him, practically quivering with excitement. Hey, Santa, she said. David expected the man to let out a jolly ho, 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 and ask the girl what she wanted for Christmas. But instead, he reached into the big red bag and withdrew a wrapped present with a big red bow on top. He handed it to the girl, and her eyes got so wide, David thought they'd pop out of her damn head. Skinny Santa pointed at the present, then mimed opening it. He didn't have to tell the girl twice. She tore the wrapping paper off in a frenzy, throwing paper this way and that to reveal a box with the image of a Ferris wheel on the front. David could just make out the words on the box. Miles County Carnival Playset. Fun, fun, fun for everyone, one. Wow, thanks, Santa. Skinny Santa patted the girl on the head, and she lifted the box and hurried back to her mother. The photographer still hadn't returned to snap her picture, but none of the parents seemed to notice. Since when did they start making Miles County Carnival play sets? It's not like there were a huge market for that or anything. Hell, most people in town wouldn't allow their kids to play with it, not after all the terrible things that happened in the carnival over the years. Skinny Santa waved both hands in a come here gesture, and a mob of eager kids rushed to the throne and formed a circle around him. Hey, can I have one? A little boy asked. Skinny Santa handed him a present from the bag. The other kids started clamoring for presents too, and the man was happy to oblige them, passing out present after present. One particular boy, blonde-headed, wearing glasses, caught his eye and he picked him up and set him on his lap. David's instincts kicked into gear again. The Santas weren't supposed to touch the kid. A pat on the head was not that big of a deal, but making a kid sit on your crotch? No fucking way. David's inclination was to head on over to Skinny Santa, remove the kid from his lap, and take him behind the fake castle for a stern talking to. But the guy had just gotten here, and if David took him away, even if only for a couple of minutes, the parents would be pissed. And he doubted mall management would be too happy either. He decided to keep a closer eye on Skinny Santa, and if the fucker so much as looked at a kid wrong, he'd come down on him like the wrath of God. The boy with the glasses frowned, leaned his face closer to Santa's jacket, and pointed at a dark spot. It looked like Skinny Santa had a trip to the dry cleaners in his future. Santa, the boy said, what's all this red stuff? The man tilted his head to the side as if to say, aren't you adorable? Then, with an index finger, he wiped a dab of something off his shirt. Ketchup? Strawberry jelly? And lightly touched the kid's nose, leaving a dot of red there. Like Rudolph, David thought, and he smiled despite himself. His smile was short-lived, however. The curly-haired Karen he dealt with a bit ago pushed her way through the throng of kids, pulling her own child after her. She stopped in front of Skinny Santa, put her free hand on her hip, and let him have it with both barrels. Excuse me? This is ridiculous. Me and my kid have been waiting in line for over an hour, and now you're just handing out presents to random kids? David didn't want to speak to the woman again, but he was the security guard on duty. He walked up to the throne, nodded to Skinny Santa, whose mask looked even creepier up close, and addressed the woman. What's the problem, ma'am? She sneered at him as if to say, you again? This is the most unprofessional operation I've ever seen. My kid was next in line. I want to speak to a manager. Of course you do, David thought. Aloud, he said, okay, let's just calm down. Dude, never tell a woman to calm down. That's my own editorial. It's just, they don't like it. Don't do it. As soon as those last two words were out of his mouth, he knew they were a mistake. The woman's face turned beet red and her eyes flashed with a fury. Don't tell me to calm down, she screamed. The red-headed elf came over to David, grabbed his elbow, and pulled him aside. That's not our Santa, she said. The Karen continued screaming at David as Skinny Santa handed more parents to the kids around him. His red bag was rapidly being depleted. Yeah, I know, David said. I figured he was Bill's replacement. There is no replacement, she said. I called the management office when Bill was late getting back. Steve told me if Bill didn't return in 15 more minutes, I should shut down the village for the day. At first, I thought the guy was Bill. His face looks like Bill's, doesn't it? And to be honest, I don't pay much attention to what Santa does. It's my job to keep the line moving. But once he called the kids over to him, I got a better look, and I knew for sure it wasn't Bill. David looked at Skinny Santa's saggy, fleshy mask. It did kind of look like Bill now that he thought about it. But whoever this motherfucker was, he wasn't supposed to be here. Probably was a goddamn pedophile or something. Kids, clear out of here, David said. When no one moved, he shouted, get going! The kids screamed and ran back toward their mothers and fathers, except for the blonde kid with glasses. He climbed off the fake Santa's lap and peered into the nearly empty sack. David wished the boy had run off with the others, but at least he wasn't on that pervert's lap anymore. David stepped over to Skinny Santa, grabbed his upper arm, and hauled him off the throne. What do you think you're doing? David said in his most stern cop voice. You can't be here. The guy didn't say anything, but that was okay. He didn't care if Skinny Santa spoke to him. But the cops who'd come to take the fucker into custody, they wouldn't accept his silence as easily. David pulled the man away from the throne. I said, move it. Let's go. He tried to escort Skinny Santa away, but a number of angry parents crowded around them, all shouting at once. What the hell is going on here? You think this is fun? Get him out of here. David tried to push through the crowd, but the curly-haired Karen stepped in front of him to block his way. He bumped into her, and since he still had a hold of Skinny Santa's arm, the impact, mild as it was, jostled the guy, and his fucking face fell off. It fell to the ground with a wet plap, and blood squirted from the edges. David understood then why the mask had looked so much like Bill. It was Bill's. Or rather, it had been. This lunatic had cut him off. Cut it off him. This lunatic had cut it off him. I swear I can read, guys. David looked up at Skinny Santa's face. It was slick with blood, but the hook nose, protruding chin, and jutting cheekbones were unmistakable. David was standing face to face with Art the Clown. The parents surrounding them, whether they recognized Art or not, began screaming. They tried to run, but everyone had crowded too close together, and all they managed to do was smack into each other. Art grinned at him, waggled his blood-smeared eyebrows, then pulled free of David's grip. The bastard was a hell of a lot stronger than he looked. He fell to his hands and knees and crawled around people in between their legs, moving with inhuman speed and dexterity. When he'd cleared the crowd, he jumped up onto his feet again. He was still grinning, only now there was a nasty edge to it. He raised his right arm and mimed checking a wristwatch. Then he looked up at David, held up 5 fingers, and began counting down in seconds. 5, 4, 3. I wonder what I got. David turned to see that the blonde boy with glasses had pulled one last present out of Santa's bag. 2, 1. His instincts screamed at him now, and he whirled around to look at the boy standing next to Santa's throne, present in hand, happy smile on his face. Back when he'd been a rookie, older cops on the force would tell him that time would seem to slow down when he got in his first life or death situation. He figured they were yanking the newbie's chain, that kind of thing they were talking about only happened in movies. But damned if it wasn't what was happening to him now. He saw the present swell in the boy's hands as if it were a balloon being filled with air, and watched tears appear in the wrapping, exposing the bulging box underneath. This was followed by the box ripping open to reveal a bright flash of light and a white cloud of gas expanding outward in all directions. The force of the explosion instantly turned the boy in the glasses into a crimson blossom of blood, shredded meat, and slivers of bone. Santa's throne and the castle facade flew apart, as did the 2 Christmas trees that were part of the display. Ornaments disintegrated into small bits of shrapnel that were caught by the air, being violently pushed out of the way by the billowing gas cloud, and streaked toward the crowd of angry moms and dads and upset children, none of whom were aware of what was happening. The shock wave caused by the explosion preceded it, slamming it into the people closest to the blast, tearing them apart as easily as if they were made of sticks and straw. The bodies of those who stood further away from the explosion remained relatively intact, the shock wavering, shattering bone, liquefying organs, rendering muscle and fat into a viscous slurry, all of it still held together by sacks of skin. Bodies were picked up and carried by the wave, arms and legs splaying outward, blood gushing from ears, noses, mouths. Clothes became rags and were flung away. Shoes came off feet, and the Christmas ornament fragments arrived and embedded themselves into flesh no longer capable of feeling pain. A white cloud followed the shock wave, enveloping the bodies, burying them in midair. And the wave kept moving. David had just enough time to turn his head. He saw Santa Art walking away at what looked like normal speed. Somehow the clown sensed David's attention on him, for he glanced backward, gave David the middle finger, turned forward once more, and kept walking. Then the shockwave hit David. He thought time would speed up for him again at this point, and his consciousness would wink out quickly as someone flipping a switch. But time does not speed up. It slowed down even more, and as David spent the mental equivalent of weeks dying, fully aware and experiencing every agonizing microsecond. Well, there we go with chapter 18. How about it? How about it? Let's see what you guys got. I am an old man. Wow. Oh, wow, that hurts, Ray. I'm just joking. Father Christmas. My beard is not like, I mean, come on. I don't look, I don't look too Father Christmassy, do I? Art's body wasn't stolen. He just walked off after slaughtering the coroner. Yeah, I mean, well, but yeah, it's from that's everyone believed that the body was stolen. So that's what the book is saying there, Ty, is that's just the story that's been told because no one believes that Art is, Sienna's the only one that thinks that Art is supernatural. Everyone else thinks it's was a real person. We got Nightmare Files hanging out. How are you doing? Welcome on in. King Matthew jumping in. What's happening, brother? Hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Enjoy. Yeah, maybe some of all of the fake Santas. I don't think so. Gosh, I really hope not. But I guess it is a decent gig if that's the kind of weird that you're into, unfortunately. Yeah, kind of gross. Wow, maybe that's why I was scared of Santa as a kid. I was one of those. I was like one of those kids that was so excited for Christmas and so excited for Santa. But then as I got closer to him in line, I was like, oh shit, I'm going to freak out, aren't I? What can you do? It was a weird time. It was a weird time in the 80s. I guess if Mrs. Claus was around, I felt better about it. How about that? And this right here, that is the chat that is the gift that keeps on giving. So thank you, Ray. Okay, here we go. Let's get into chapter 19. It was dusk by the time she drew near Greg and Jess's house. She tried calling Jonathan to see how he was doing and let him know she'd gotten the sword, but he didn't pick up. She left a voicemail and then, for good measure, sent him a text. Got it. Be careful. Call me. S. She wondered if Jonathan was avoiding her on purpose. She realized now that she'd come on pretty strong when she'd spoken to him in Westview, and that she'd probably freaked him out. She'd been on the verge of panic, and after only one day out of Happy Valley. He probably thought she'd lost it for good this time. She considered calling Dr. Catry for advice, but if she told the doctor that Art had returned and so had the pale little girl, only in the body of an adult woman this time, she'd probably find herself back at the hospital a couple hours after calling. She'd just have to hope Jonathan got back in touch with her soon. Sienna had to make a stop on the way home, and by the time she got to Greg and Jess's, it was full dark. Neither Jess, Greg, or Gabby had tried to call or text her, so she figured she probably wasn't in too much trouble for keeping Jess's car out so long. But she wouldn't know for sure until she got inside. She pulled into the driveway, turned off the engine, and sat for a moment, preparing herself. Jess might not be mad at her, but Greg tended to see the negative side of a situation first. He hadn't said anything to Sienna, but she had the sense that he was keeping a close eye on her, waiting to see if she had a relapse and needed to return to Happy Valley. She couldn't blame him. He was the only one in the family who'd seen her at her worst, and he wanted to protect Gabby and keep her from seeing the crazy, violent side of the cousin she idolized. Any little thing, such as borrowing Jess's car without getting permission to do so, might set off alarm bells for him. She needed to be ready for an interrogation when she got inside. A long, narrow box rested on the passenger seat, wrapped in festive blue paper with images of angels spread across it, tied with a silver ribbon and bow. She couldn't very well walk into the house carrying the sword. Greg would flip out for sure if he saw it, so she'd stop to get some wrapping materials on the way home. What better way to sneak something into a house at Christmas time than as a present? She picked up the box, got out of the car, and went inside, making sure to open and close the front door as quietly as she could. She wanted to get the sword up to her room without anyone seeing her, but if they did, she'd tell them it was a gift for Jonathan. No one was waiting for her as she came in, and she quietly made her way to the living room. No one was there either. She heard voices from the direction of the kitchen, smelled something sweet baking, and figured Jess and Greg were making Christmas treats. She couldn't hear what they were talking about, but there was an excellent chance that she was the topic of discussion. Once she got the sword stashed away in her room, she'd come back downstairs, go into the kitchen, and see what she could do to smooth things over with Jess and Greg. She reached the bottom of the stairs, but before she could start heading up, she heard someone moving around in the second floor hallway. Maybe she'd been wrong about the voices in the kitchen, and Greg and Jess were upstairs, ready to come down and see Sienna standing awkwardly in the living room, holding a strange narrow box wrapped in paper decorated with angels. Jess liked to wrap presents early and get them under the tree several days before Christmas. It's more fun to have them around for a while. You can see them every time you pass through the room, and you wonder which ones are for you and what's inside them. Maybe you're tempted to peek at the tags, even pick up a few boxes to see how heavy they are. Maybe shake them to see if you can hear any sounds that give you a clue to what's inside. It builds anticipation, you know? At least 24 presents of various sizes lay under the living room tree, and Sienna hurried over, placed the sword in the back, and moved some boxes around to hide it. She'd come downstairs in the middle of the night to get the box and take it up to her room. "What's that?" Sienna spun around and saw Gabby standing at the bottom of the stairs. She guessed the girl had heard her and snuck down as quietly as she could to see what her older cousin was up to. "Jesus, you scared me," Sienna said. "What are you doing snooping around like that?" Gabby ignored the question. "Is it for me?" "None of your business, nosy." Gabby grinned and walked over to Sienna. "It is, isn't it?" "No, it's not," Sienna said, "and don't even think about opening it." Gabby ignored this statement as well. "What happened to your hands?" "My hands?" Sienna looked at them. There was dirt under her nails, and her fingers and palms were red and raw from digging. "Oh, I fell. Okay, I slipped on some ice and took a ridiculously embarrassing spill in front of 20 college students. Is that what you want to hear?" Gabby giggled. "I wish I saw that." She gave Gabby a mock scowl. "Oh yeah? You think that's funny? Come here." She reached for Gabby with her rough hands, growling like a monster. Gabby gave a delighted squeal and ran back upstairs, Sienna chasing after her, laughing. God, this kid was good for her. Sienna went into the upstairs bathroom to wash her hands and clean the dirt from beneath her fingernails. Several times she found herself glancing at the tub as if to reassure herself that no demonic sea monsters were lurking inside. When she was finished, she went downstairs and headed into the kitchen. Just act normal, she told herself. You're part of a normal family, doing normal Christmas stuff. Something smells amazing, she said. Jess and Gabby stood at the counter making Christmas-themed crispy treats from a multicolored cereal. Some were already finished and sitting on the sheet of tinfoil to cool. The bits look like ornaments, she thought. Cute. Greg wasn't in the kitchen. Maybe he'd stepped out for a minute, most likely to sneak into his home office to check email and voice messages while Jess and Gabby were busy. Jess turned to face her. You're back late, she said. How's your brother? I told him Art the Clown was hunting us, and that freaked him the fuck out. He's good. He's going to a campus Christmas party tonight. Sienna hoped he'd still go to the party. The more people he was around, the safer he'd be. Jess raised her eyebrows in surprise. Jonathan's going to a Christmas party? Nice to know he's socializing. Did you eat? I didn't cook tonight since we're going to be eating like pigs for the next 3 days, but there's some cold cuts in the fridge and some rolls if you want to make a sandwich. I'm good. We grabbed a bite in the cafeteria. She and Jonathan hadn't gotten any food. They had just talked. But after her experience in the Terrifier, she wasn't all that hungry. She examined the cooling treats. These are friggin' adorable, Aunt Jess. Wait, was Jess using Wacky Jacks to make these? Suddenly, they weren't so adorable anymore. Gabby grabbed a plastic bag containing Wacky Jacks pieces off the counter, popped a few into her mouth, and sat at the table while she chewed. These are my favorite. She held the bag out to Sienna. You want some? As Sienna looked at the cereal, it changed from Wacky Jacks to Art Krispies, complete with shards of glass, razor blades, and live insects. She turned away in disgust. No thanks. Gabby withdrew the bag. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. You don't like cereal. Sienna turned and frowned at her cousin. She could think of only one way Gabby could possibly know a detail like that, but she couldn't say anything now, not with Jess here. Greg entered the kitchen then. Who doesn't like cereal? He went straight for the table. Gabby offered him the bag of Wacky Jacks this time, and he reached in, took a handful, and started eating it. Sienna, Gabby said. Cereal? Greg said. Really, I can understand tofu, maybe, or lima beans, but cereal? Father, mother, and daughter all looked at Sienna then, and she struggled to come up with a good excuse. I try to stay away from too much sugar. Greg grabbed another handful of Wacky Jacks from the cereal bag and tossed them into his mouth. He spoke while he chewed. Wish I had your willpower. Sienna looked at Gabby. Hey, what do you say we play a board game? Gabby rushed into her room and went straight for her closet. Sienna stepped inside. She'd never been in her cousin's room before and was surprised to see it was decorated a lot like hers. Purple and white colors, posters of fantasy creatures on the walls, even the same Starfield designed comforter on the bed. It was extremely flattering to have someone look up to you like Gabby looked up to her, but it also came with a lot of responsibility. She'd never been anyone's role model before. What if she did something to disappoint Gabby, or said something that hurt her feelings? What are you in the mood for? Gabby opened her closet, revealing board games stacked on a set of shelves toward the back. I have a ton. Pictionary? Guess Who? Monopoly? I like Monopoly, but it takes forever. I never told you I don't like cereal, Sienna said. What? Gabby said, but she didn't turn around. How did you know I don't like cereal? Gabby didn't answer. Gabby, did you read my journal? The girl turned around now. She looked at the floor as if unable to face Sienna and spoke in a small, ashamed voice. I'm sorry. I knew it. Gabby didn't look up. Don't be mad at me. Sienna closed the bedroom door to make sure Jess and Greg couldn't hear them. Where is it? She demanded. I put it back in your room. How much did you read? Gabby still didn't look up and she didn't answer. Tell me, Sienna pressed. Gabby sighed. She walked over to sit on the edge of her bed and finally met Sienna's gaze. All of it. Sienna fought to keep her anger out of her voice. Jesus, Gabby. You promised me. Gabby looked like she might cry. I'm sorry. I wanted to know what happened to you. Sienna wanted to yell at her, but she didn't have the heart. Instead, she sat on the bed next to Gabby. Is it true? Gabby asked. All of that stuff about the clown and Uncle Michael? You saw the clown today, didn't you? In the mall. That's why you freaked out. Sienna didn't want to lie to her cousin, but she wanted to protect her from the darkness that was coming. No. Gabby, I'm sick. You know that, right? My mind plays tricks on me and I see things that aren't real sometimes. So I write them down in that journal and I talk about it with people who can help me. Gabby looked at her for several seconds and Sienna couldn't tell what the girl was thinking. Did she believe her? Or did she suspect her story was bullshit? Then you didn't really cut off the clown's head with a magic sword that Uncle Michael made? Gabby said. No. Damn, that would have been so cool. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Sienna was amused by Gabby's reaction. Promise me, really promise, that you won't tell anybody about what's in that diary. Not your parents, not your friends at school, no one. Sienna no longer cared what people thought about the state of her sanity, but she didn't want to go back to Happy Valley before she could take care of Art once and for all. After that, it didn't matter what happened to her. I promise. Gabby sounded serious now, almost like an adult, and Sienna decided she could trust her this time. And really, what other choice did she have? Okay, she smiled. Now let's play Pictionary so I can kick your ass. Art, still wearing his Santa suit, pulled the Ironside demolition van into the house's driveway. He was glad to see the neighborhood had succumbed even more to corruption over the last 5 years. The area practically reeked of negative energy now, and it made his black heart sing. After setting off his Christmas surprise at the mall, Art had made a few more stops around town. He'd gone into a local coffee shop to get some hot chocolate, but he'd forgotten that his face was still slick with blood from wearing the Santa flesh mask, and everyone, staff and customers alike, had started screaming. He'd killed them all to shut them up, then went behind the counter and made his own hot chocolate. It was delicious. Then he drove around town looking at Christmas decorations, finally stopping at one house that had an unconvincing nativity scene in the front yard. The characters, both human and animal, were made from molded plastic and not painted very well. The poor quality of the scene offended his artistic sensibilities, and he spent half an hour rectifying that. When he drove away from the house, he'd replaced the plastic figures with real corpses. He hadn't been able to find any donkey or sheep, so he killed a bunch of dogs and cats and put them into a large pile that more or less resembled a donkey, and then put a few more into a smaller pile to represent a sheep. Finding and killing adults to play Mary, Joseph, and the three wise men was easy enough, but locating a suitable infant, one that had the right combination of holiness and innocence, proved far more difficult. He had some of his makeup in the van, so he put the plastic baby back in its manger and painted its face to resemble his. Much better. He drove away from the bloody scene, feeling the satisfaction of a job well done. By this time, it was dark, and he went downtown and parked in the historic district. He strolled the sidewalks for a bit until he saw a man in a top hat giving people rides in his horse-drawn carriage. Art waited until the driver had no customers and approached him. When the man asked how he was doing this fine evening, Art grabbed his head with both hands, gave a violent twist, and broke his neck. He then climbed into the driver's seat, picked up the buggy whip lying there, and cracked it on the horse's rump to get it going. He then drove up and down the sidewalks, running people over, horse hooves and carriage wheels, breaking bones and bursting organs. He laughed like a mute lunatic the entire time. Ho, ho, ho. But now he was home. Everything he'd done today was merely a warm-up for the main event tonight, and he was eager to get started. When he walked inside, he didn't see any sign of Victoria. Not even the rats were around. He frowned. Was it too much to expect a welcome home, dear, after a hard day of slaughter and mayhem? He went down into the basement and found Victoria sitting in a chair near his workbench, her back to him. And now, she said, the reveal. She stood, came around to the back of the chair, and struck a pose, one hand on her hip, the other at her side, chin raised to give a slightly haughty air. She finished the outfit she'd been working on, and considering she only had odds and ends to work with, she'd done a spectacular job of recreating the little pale girl's clown outfit in adult size. She'd put white and black makeup on her face to resemble his, but given her mutilated features, the effect was far more disturbing. And the final touch? A crown of woven thorn vines on her head, points digging into her forehead, resulting in thin streams of blood running down her face. The little pale girl was all grown up. Art put both hands over his chest and then rapidly moved them forward and back, miming his heart pumping wildly. Victoria curtsied. Why, thank you, kind sir. She straightened and gave him the grimace that served as a smile. Ready to get to work? She asked. Art nodded vigorously and grinned. Well, all right, there we go. That is chapter 19. We're just cruising through this, huh? Early 90s Easter bunnies were horrifying too. Yeah. Yeah, I'm old. Yeah, I was born in 82, so the 80s, mid to late is when I remember seeing Santa. Hey there, Gina. How are you doing? One of our great channel members, my chunky Jordy. Merry Christmas to you and yours, Gina. Give Ziggy some love for us. We got Robert the Wolfman in the house. Ow, ow. How are you doing, Robert? Merry Christmas, brother. Robert, are you going to Flagstaff this weekend? Because I might be going to. I've been tight-lipped about it, but I'm very excited. Let's see here. Merry Kinkmas. Yeah, Merry Kinkmas, Robert. There you go. A little bit, Artur Etas. A little bit, I can. It's true. It's true. Okay, I'm going to have some sips, and then we'll get going on chapter 20, because we have 3 chapters left. And I need to be done in an hour. So I think these chapters are relatively... Let's see here. How much more do we have to go? Wait, what did I say we were reading today? Is it through 23? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So we have a little less than 30 pages. Okay, here we go. That's not so bad. I'm just being a total bitch about it. It's true. It's true. I should start a second channel for this kind of stuff. And then a third channel just where people show up and just verbally berate and abuse me completely, because that just happens anyway. So I guess I need a Abuse Davey channel, members only, right? You must pay to wreak havoc on my psyche. Okay, here we go, guys. Chapter 20. So 27 chapters in the whole book. We've got less than 70 pages left. I'm very excited to see. We're getting all this extra stuff. Like, imagine in the movie, because that scene is not in the movie, right? I've only seen it once, but imagine seeing him in a horse-drawn carriage just annihilating people in a little quaint downtown area. Like, that would have been pretty awesome. So I like that we're getting some extra kills here in the book. I like that the book is in ways being more violent than the film. I like that. Okay, here we are, chapter 20. The party was in full swing at the Beta house when Art and Victoria roared up in the Ironside van. Art brought the vehicle to a screeching halt in front of the house where a dozen or so cars were parked. He and Victoria sat in the van and observed for several moments. The house was a quaint old thing, 3 stories tall, with a wooden facade, white paint, black shutters, a steeply sloping roof, a wraparound porch, and a dozen windows. It was decorated for the season. A large wreath on the front door, electric candles glowing in each of the windows, strings of icicle lights hanging from the edge of the porch, and a snowman in the yard with a carrot for a nose and a large, thick zucchini representing a much lower organ. The deep boom, boom, boom of a bass beat echoed from inside, and the students milled about on the porch or stood on the snow-covered lawn, drinking, smoking, talking, and laughing, most of them not wearing any jackets, already too drunk or high to care about the cold. "He's inside?" Victoria asked. Art nodded. When he'd swallowed some of Jonathan's flesh 5 years ago, he'd created a link between them, just as he'd created one with the unpossessed Victoria 6 years ago. This link allowed Art to track Jonathan and find him wherever he was. The wimpy little fucker hadn't really seemed like the party type half a decade ago, but hey, people changed, right? Good. Remember why we're here. Survivor's guilt. Art gave her an okay sign, then he slipped on the snazzy Christmas tree sunglasses he'd taken from Stybart's bar and got out of the van. He went around to the back, got his black trash bag out of the cargo bay, and headed for the porch. As he walked up the steps, some of the students gathered outside shouted, "Santa!" or let out a whoop, or they simply gave him a thumbs up. As he opened the door, 3 rowdy young men carrying a heavy beer keg came up the steps. Art graciously held the door for them, and the trio regarded him as they passed. "Thanks, bro," one said. Another took in Art's costume and makeup. "That's fucking wicked." The last kid merely nodded his appreciation. Art patted him on the back and followed the keg carriers inside. Time to really get this party started. The theme of the Beta's party was Christmas on the beach, and Cole wore a silk bathrobe, open to show his bare chest, along with a fake lei hanging around his neck and a pair of ratty jeans cut off just above the knees. He'd tried to talk Mia into wearing a bikini, but she refused. Not out of modesty, but because, as she said, "It's fucking cold outside." Instead, she wore a long-sleeved pink crop top and jeans that looked like they'd been painted on. An outfit that was practical and sexy. Cole approved. They fully expected to have a great time at the party, but it turned out to be lame as hell. It seemed like every student at Westview was crammed into the house, making it difficult, if not impossible, to move. The music was so loud you could barely hear yourself think, and everyone was shouting to try and make conversation, but no one could tell what anyone was saying. People had to resort to texting one another to communicate, even when they were only a couple of feet apart. And despite the cold outside, it was hot as motherfucking hell inside the house. Cole figured a big part of that was the crowd of people inside, but he heard someone saying the controls for the Beta's heating system were messed up and they couldn't lower the temperature. And worst of all, the goddamn party was BYOBAS. Bring your own beverages and snacks. Only the Betas had forgotten to include that vital bit of info on the flyers they'd passed out around campus. Cole and Mia hadn't brought anything with them, and they really didn't feel like making a convenience store run just to end up back at a shitty party. Before leaving, they looked for Jonathan. Cole didn't want to leave him stranded here on his own, but they didn't see him. Not that they would in this massive crowd. They did run into one of Mia's friends, a creepy guy named Zach Bennett, who was also into serial killers and watched Mia's podcast religiously. He and Jonathan had both been in the same physics class, and when they told him they were looking for Jonathan, Zach said he saw him not long ago. "Yeah, he was here, stayed for maybe 5 minutes, then took off. Asshole pretended he didn't see me too." Cole and Mia didn't know what to make of Zach's last comment, so they said goodbye and got the hell out of there. Art hadn't seen the 3 kids with the keg since entering the house, but he didn't care about them. He was busy searching for Jonathan. But so far, he'd had no luck. He was having trouble pinpointing the boy's exact location. Too many other people around, maybe, their combined presence interfering with his connection to Jonathan. But another possibility occurred to him. Maybe the little bastard had been here, but he'd left. That would explain why he couldn't find him in the house. Irritated, Art started toward the front door, shoving partiers out of his way as he went. Once outside, he should be able to get a better read on where Jonathan... Dude, you look amazing! One of the partiers had stepped directly in front of him, purposely blocking his way. Art would have shoved his ass aside too, but then he noticed the sweat-soaked t-shirt the kid was wearing read, "Ask me about my excessive knowledge of serial killers." The kid had to practically scream to be heard over all the noise. A Christmas version of Art the Clown? That's fucking genius! Art turned away, suddenly bashful, and waved a hand at the boy in an aw shucks gesture. "My name's Zach Bennett, by the way. Hey, cool bit of trivia. I was in physics class this semester with Jonathan Shaw, one of the only victims of Art the Clown who managed to survive. We're not best friends or anything, but we get along pretty good." Now the boy had Art's full attention. Art looked right, then left, as if he was searching for something. Then he looked at the kid and held his hands out, palms up. Zach laughed. "Man, you really commit to a role, don't you? If you're asking me if Jonathan is here, he was, but only for a little while before he left. Not really his kind of scene, you know? He's more of a sensitive, intellectual type." Having his suspicions confirmed, Art gave Zach a quick salute of thanks, then started to move past him. But before he could get away, Zach put a hand on his shoulder to stop him. Art's eyes narrowed dangerously as he turned to see what the kid wanted. "If you don't mind a little constructive... Good God, guys. If you don't mind a little constructive criticism, I am an expert on Art the Clown, and while your look is good, I mean really good, it does have a few glaring inaccuracies. The real Art's nose is longer, and it doesn't have a black dot on the tip. His chin isn't quite so prominent, and your eyebrow lines are far too thin and small. And you've used way too much black on and around your lips. There are a couple of smaller issues too, but I think..." Art rammed a hand into the kid's mouth, shoved his arm all the way down in his throat into his stomach, grabbed a hold of the lining and pulled. Blood sprayed from the kid's mouth, and his body jerked and spasmed as Art yanked out his stomach along with a significant section of his esophagus. He dropped the slippery, bloody mess to the floor and stepped to the side as Zach fell forward and hit the floor face first, dead. Over the thumping bass and grinding guitar of the music, Art heard something he'd never heard before. Applause. The partiers in the immediate vicinity had all turned toward Art. Some were grinning, some looked queasy, but all of them were clapping. The 3 keg carriers were part of the crowd, and one of them patted Art on the back. "Dude," the kid shouted, "that was sick." Art grinned and bowed. After leaving the party, Mia and Cole walked around for a while, holding hands and trying to decide if there was something else happening on campus tonight that was worthwhile. They couldn't think of anything, so they said to hell with it and returned to the dorms. They went to Cole's room where they discovered Jonathan asleep in his bed, so they quietly closed the door. Given how much the party sucked, Cole figured Jonathan had made the right move by bailing and turning in to catch some shut-eye. Mia's roommate, Erica, was at the party, so she and Cole went to their room. Now Mia stood at the bathroom sink, looking into the mirror while she removed her jewelry. Cole stood in the doorway, leaning against the jamb and watching her. Outwardly, he and Mia seemed like a combination that could never work, and yet, somehow they did. They hadn't been dating long, and it was way too early to tell, but Cole had a feeling that their relationship could develop into something more than a casual thing, given time. He'd never consider staying with anyone more than a few weeks, a month or two, tops. But the thought of having something long-term with Mia didn't sound too bad. In fact, it sounded pretty damn good. He was worried about Jonathan. That scene with his sister at the cafeteria had been a bad one, and he'd gone straight to the room after she left. Cole hadn't had any contact with him since. He wanted to give the man his space, but now he wondered if he was giving him too much space. He pulled his phone from his pocket and gave Jonathan a call. It rang a few times before going to voicemail. "Yo, Shaw, it's Cole. I guess you're still sleeping. Look, just want to make sure you're okay, bro. Give me a call back when you get this. Peace." He disconnected and returned the phone to his pocket. Out of nowhere, Mia asked, "You don't think I was that insensitive before, do you?" Zach knew if he answered truthfully. Zach, so we have another misprint here. Cole knew if he answered truthfully, he risked his chances of getting laid tonight. But it was his nature to tell it like it was. Screw the consequences. Besides, he liked Mia too much to lie to her. Yes. Yes, I do, actually. Mia finished putting the last accessory into her jewelry box, then carried it with her as she left the bathroom. Cole stepped out of her way and followed. She slid the box under her bed, then sat on the edge of the mattress. Cole sat next to her where he had an excellent view of the serial killer posters she'd hung on her side of the room. Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, BTK, and the Green River Killer. That cannibal psychiatrist dude, he hated the things. It creeped him out how they were just staring at you, as if sizing you up as a potential victim. Look, Mia said, I know it's a touchy subject and everything, but, I mean, come on. It's not like it happened yesterday. Yeah, I don't think that's something you ever really get over. Well, Sienna didn't have to snap at me the way she did. Besides, talking it out is a good form of therapy. I was trying to do her a favor. Cole smiled wryly. Very selfless of you. Art stood in the hallway outside Mia's room, trash bag slung over his shoulder, listening. The dorm was quiet. Everyone was at the beta party, and he had no trouble hearing the two of them as they talked. Once outside the beta house, he'd been able to sense Jonathan again. He'd gotten back in the van, and he and Victoria drove to the dorms and parked in a lot reserved for visitors. It was important to comply with the college's parking regulations. He didn't want to get a ticket from campus police. Once again, Victoria had chosen to wait in the van while Art went in search of Jonathan. He had no trouble finding the kid's room, but as he approached, he saw another boy and a girl standing in the door. The boy peeked inside, then quietly closed the door. He raised a finger to his lips in a shh gesture. The girl nodded, and they left. The boy's actions told Art that Jonathan was asleep in his room, and he was intrigued by the other two students. Were they friends of Jonathan? He had trouble imagining the little fuck having any friends, so he decided to indulge his curiosity and follow them. As he eavesdropped on Cole and Mia's conversation, he amused himself by reacting silently in mime fashion. What about Jonathan? Mia asked. You think he still might do it? I don't know, Mia. One thing he didn't like about her, she seemed unable to let something go, even when pursuing it might hurt other people. Cole, I want that interview. I mean, sitting across from someone who actually encountered Art the Clown, the most popular serial killer since Jack the Ripper, it's historic. Art put his hands to his cheeks and formed an O of surprise with his mouth. Him being compared to Jack the Ripper? Talk about a bucket list item. Cole was starting to get mad now. Encountered. That's putting it mildly, wouldn't you say? Kid was almost butchered. Art dropped his hands and his features twisted into an angry sneer. There was nothing ruder than a victim who refused to die when they should. Mia pursed her lips in irritation. You know what I mean. I want to know what it's like to be in the presence of that kind of evil. What goes through your mind when you're close enough to feel his breath on your body? What does he smell like? What do you see when you look into his eyes? Is there a soul? Art looked suddenly worried. He raised an arm so he could sniff his pit, then turned his head away quickly, gagging. Jesus, you sound like you want to fuck him. Mia rolled her eyes. I don't want to fuck him. Come on, you're friendly with Jonathan. You said he looks up to you, right? Maybe you can convince him. Art looked offended, and the expression on his face said, I don't want to fuck you either, skank. Cole was really angry now. Mia. She pushed him back onto the bed and straddled him. As she spoke her next words, she punctuated them with soft kisses to his face and neck, slowly grinding her crotch against his. Please, do it for me? Kiss. Come on, he'll listen to you. I'll be nice, I promise. Kiss. 20 minutes with him, that's all I need. Come on, kiss. I'll make it worth your while. You're very persuasive. Mia leaned forward, grabbed his face, and kissed him passionately. Cole wrapped his arms around her, and the kiss deepened. After a few moments, Mia sat up again, and Cole sighed. I'll see what I can do. Mia squealed and clapped her hands. Thank you, baby. I'm going to wash up. She crawled off him and got out of bed. Cole sat up, scowling. Seriously? You're just going to leave me hanging like this? That's cold. Mia went into the bathroom and got her shower kit, a small plastic carrier containing body wash, conditioner, and shampoo. She'd also grabbed a couple of washcloths and towels. She then returned to the main room and gave Cole a sly smile. Well, then maybe you should come and take a hot shower with me. She turned and headed for the door, giving her hips a little extra sway as she went. God damn, Cole said, then jumped out of bed and hurried after her. Art had retreated to the end of the hallway and around the corner before the two lovebirds left the room. The girl ran giggling down the hall in the other direction, and the boy chased after her laughing. Art hoped they wouldn't mind if he joined them. After all, threesomes were more fun. He smiled as he started down the hallway, the toys in his bag clinking heavily against each other with each step. And that's the end of chapter 20. All right. Guys, we can do this. 3 more. We can do this. Very nice, Paula. What do you got for Din Din? Let us know. I've been thinking about doing a second channel for a long time. It's probably going to be story time readings, maybe some ASMR stuff mixed in there as well. I don't know. We'll see. Gina says, I found out Santa wasn't real when I caught Dad drinking Santa's rum and eating his cookies. Wow. Is that what you guys do out in the UK? You give Santa rum and cookies. I mean, I guess, like, you know, they address that in Violent Night. You know, I mean, he doesn't have to drive, right? The reindeer do all the work. Thanks, Steph. I'm trying to do, you know, I know I'm not like diving into, you know, voice work in a big way here, but I'm trying to put some character to the characters, right? It's fun. Hey there, Em. How are you doing? Hope you're wow, it's late out there, huh? You're just about to hit Christmas in a little over a half hour. That's exciting. Welcome on in. Thank you so much for being a channel member, Em. I really do appreciate it. And guys, just so you know, I know it's, you know, Christmas is very busy for everyone, but maybe you've got to drive to visit some family or something like that, or maybe you just have a little bit of downtime while you're hanging out with your, you know, your loved ones. Em is going live tomorrow. I believe it's 3 p.m. Eastern out here in the States. She's going to go live for a little Christmas stream. So, you know, if you're kicking around YouTube or you're just, you know, rotting on your phone on social media, then jump on over to Em's stream and say hi. She's got great content. She put out a video, I think earlier today, about Christmas horror movies that are on the naughty list. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. All right, let's see what we got. Crispy chicken bites and mott sticks. All right. So tonight my brother-in-law makes these really good, like, authentic, like, Mexican tacos. Like, he gets the tortillas from, like, the local mart where they, like, you know, a small company, like, makes the tortillas. And then he gets the, what is it, like the Oaxaca cheese. It's really, really good stuff. I dig it. Why are people saying Santa's not real? Santa is in the hearts of all of us, right, Em? We put out whiskey when I was a kid. Okay, so this is a Brit thing. Okay, because we do milk and cookies here. Maybe certain families might put out something fun like that, like a little eggnog with some rum in it or something like that. I've never heard of that before, but not to say that there's anything wrong with that, right? I'm mainly going live so no one feels alone. Well, I won't be alone, but I will be jumping in to hang out because I'm sure I'll need a break. My family is very, like, I have a big family. We're really loud. Like, I know I seem like I don't ever stop talking, and other than these streams, I know I'm loud and boisterous. But when you're in the midst of all of the Conway clan, oh my gosh, it is like, and I love it. But also there's like a point where I'm like, it's kind of nice. I'm like, ooh, I can like not talk and still, you know, enjoy everything going on. So it's a nice little break. Christmas party for my family was this afternoon. Very cool. You guys aren't doing anything tomorrow? Maybe a little Christmas dinner, football watching? There's a lot of football going on. I'm avoiding being hit by Michaela playing VR and trying to watch the stream. What's she playing? And which VR system is it and what game, Ray? I'm very curious. Okay, all my coffee's gone, so I got to go back to water, and then we'll get going on chapter 21. This should get interesting here, the shower scene, which I think outdoes the bedroom scene. I think, so by the time I finally watched Terrifier 2, I had heard so much about the bedroom scene. I was just sort of like, okay. Like, I thought the sawing the woman in half in the first Terrifier movie was more like viscerally brutal to me than the bedroom scene. I thought the bedroom scene was actually kind of funny. Like the salt, literally putting salt in a wound. That's kind of funny. I think this shower scene, you know, like chainsaw up the butt, seeing a dude's twig and two berries, like, or what, meat and two veg, whatever the, you know, the Brit term is. What's the word that I'm trying to use? The, I can't think of anything right now. Why can't I think of the word? Whatever. I don't know why I can't think of that word. Colloquialism. There we go. I just love that word, colloquialism. It's very, very fun. Well, you can always hop back in. You know, just let the water wash over you. There you go. Gonna head to bed, wait for the big man to empty his sack and come down my chimney. Jeez. Oh, I'm going over to my sister's for karaoke, and I really want to sing that Everybody's Waiting for the Man with the Bag. So we'll see how I do. If I get good vid of it, I'll share it with you guys here on the channel. I love your bit of filth. You are a delight, and I hope you have a great night's sleep and an awesome Christmas tomorrow, and I'll see you on your stream. Take care, miss. Thank you so much again for being a channel member. You rock my socks. All right, here we go. Chapter 21. The showers were deserted this time of night, especially with everyone over at the Beta's party, so Mia and Cole had the place all to themselves. They chose a stall and Mia began undressing, taking her time, enjoying Cole's eyes on her. She liked the sexual control she had over him. It was a major turn on, but she also just liked him. He could be infuriating at times, but mostly he was sweet, and she felt good being around him. What more could you want out of a relationship? When she was naked, she put her clothes on the bench inside the stall, along with her shower kit, the washcloths, and towels. She then turned to watch Cole undress. It didn't take long. It never did. He quickly took off his clothes with absolutely no sense of style or presentation. Still, his body displayed his enthusiastic appreciation of hers, and that made up for his lack of showmanship. He might not have been well endowed as the Beta snowman, but he was definitely no slouch in that department. He stored his clothes alongside hers, then closed the stall's frosted glass door. Mia walked over to the shower head and turned on the water, making sure to stand well away from the initial spray, since it always came out freezing cold at first. Mia enjoyed making love in the shower, but after she and Cole had experienced the stifling heat inside the Beta house, they both were in dire need of a good hose off. Cole came up behind her and hugged her as they waited for the water to warm up, and she closed her eyes in contentment. She loved sex, but this sort of skin-to-skin contact, simple, tender, and loving, meant just as much to her, maybe more. When the water was ready, she took Cole by the hand and led him into the spray. She luxuriated in the sensation of warmth spreading across her body. It was cold outside tonight, and she'd been chilled walking around the campus with Cole. All she wanted now was to get warm and get laid. She'd accomplished the first goal. Time to work on the second. She turned to Cole, put one arm around his neck, kissed him, and with her free hand reached down to take hold of his penis. They started slowly, which was something. They used the word penis. They started slowly, which was something else she liked about Cole. For all his eagerness, he never rushed her, and she found that incredibly romantic, revealing a side of him that he normally kept hidden from the world, a side that was just for her. Cole kissed the hollow of her throat, moved lower, and she put her hands on his head to direct him where she wanted him to go. But before he could get there, she saw a silhouette of a figure standing outside the frosted shower door. Probably one of the other girls who lived on this floor, coming in for a late shower and curious about the mms and ahs and moans coming from the stall. Be jealous, girl. I've got my lover. Go find your own. A loud motor revving to life drowned out the sound of falling water. What the a chainsaw bust a chainsaw bar what? A chainsaw bar? A chainsaw bar. What does that mean? Anyways, a chainsaw bar thrust through the shower door, shattering the glass and sending shards flying. Mia felt hot, sharp pain in her face, arms, and chest as glass fragments embedded themselves in her skin. Cole crouched low in front of her and shards struck his back and ass. The shock caused him to lose his balance and he fell to the wet floor. Mia watched as a dark figure stepped into the shower, holding the chainsaw before him like a weapon. It was Santa Claus? Along with the traditional Santa regalia, he wore a pair of weird Christmas tree sunglasses. The figure stepped closer, and when Mia saw his face, she gasped, partly in terror, partly in surprised excitement. It was Art the Clown. His black lips were pulled away from his teeth in a fiendish grin. Cole jumped to his feet and turned around to shield Mia. He held up his hands as if a warning, or maybe pleading, Art to stay back, and they both screamed. Mia hadn't screamed since she was a little girl, and she'd never screamed like this. The sound was primal, the cry of a terrified animal facing a merciless predator. This is how a victim reacts, she thought. I'm a victim. Art stepped forward, swung the chainsaw, and sliced through the palm of Cole's left hand. Cole shrieked, blood spurted, and half his hand fell to the shower floor with a meaty plap, the forefingers still twitching. As a true crime enthusiast, Mia had seen hundreds, maybe thousands of crime scene photos and autopsy photos showing dead bodies in every state, from those that merely looked like they were asleep to bodies so horribly mutilated you couldn't tell the mess of blood, flesh, and bone had once been a human. Because of this, she'd believed that she'd developed, if not an immunity, at least a tolerance to violent images. But it was one thing to gaze at gory images on a computer screen from the safety and comfort of her room, and quite another to watch her lover lose half his hand to a chainsaw in real life. Cole continued shielding her as he moved back toward the shower wall, pushing her with him. Her back smacked against the wet tile, and she realized they had nowhere left to go. Art knew it too, for his grin widened, and he came at them, swinging the chainsaw in wild, vicious arcs, back and forth, cutting into their bodies with each swing. Mia and Cole screamed and tried to defend themselves, shielding themselves with their arms, turning their backs to protect their soft stomachs, trying to run around Art and escape. But the clown was in a blood frenzy now, and he kept swinging the chainsaw without pause, slicing arms, breasts, backs, butts, legs. He sliced a large gaping wound down Cole's back from shoulder to midsection, leaving a large flap of skin that wobbled horribly as Cole moved. Blood poured from their wounds onto the floor, only to be washed down the drain by the shower spray. Somewhere in the roiling storm of pain that had become her entire universe, a part of Mia that was detached from what was happening to her body thought, we're gonna die. There would be crime scene photos of them posted across the internet, along with lurid descriptions of the injuries they'd suffered. Their names would be recorded for all time, added to the roster of Art the Clown's many victims, and whenever anyone read about what was sure to be called the Third Miles County Massacre, they would live again. They'd be immortal. It almost made dying worth it. Almost. Cole managed to get past Art, and he stumbled towards the stall's opening, cutting his feet on the shattered remains of the glass door. Don't go, she thought. Stay with me and live forever. As if Cole's body heard her thoughts, a wound in his left leg split open and a jagged piece of bone jutted outward. Cole screamed in agony as the leg collapsed beneath him, and he fell to the floor, cutting himself on the glass some more. He began crawling toward the doorway, inch by painful inch, leaving a blood trail behind him. Art didn't seem to notice Cole attempting to escape. He continued attacking Mia, still in berserker mode, cutting her more deeply than he had before. During one swing, her hair became caught in the machine's teeth, jamming the cutting chain and causing the saw's engine to die. Art scowled in frustration as he attempted to yank the chainsaw free, but no matter how hard he pulled, Mia's hair remained tangled. He rolled his eyes as if to say, why do these things always happen to me? He swung the chainsaw downward, pulling Mia off her feet. She fell onto her stomach, crying out as the cuts on her chest and abdomen smacked against the hard, wet floor. She looked to her left and saw one of her breasts lying there, and it seemed odd to her that this lump of flesh had once been attached to her and that Cole had been touching it, squeezing it, sucking it only a few minutes ago. The whole idea was so absurd she almost laughed. She might have too, if Art hadn't chosen that moment to jam a booted foot between her shoulder blades, driving the air out of her lungs. He pulled on the chainsaw again, putting all his strength into it this time. A line broke off A line broke open across her forehead, and with a sudden wet tearing, her entire scalp detached from her skull. Mia tried to scream, but without any air to fuel it, it came out as a strangled wheeze. An instant later, she saw her scalp fall to the floor next to her breast. A few more pieces, and Art would have enough to make a whole new girl, she thought. Art lifted his boot off her back, holding the chainsaw in one hand. Art lifted his boot off her back and, holding the chainsaw in one hand, used his other hand to lift her partway up and slid her across the blood-slicked floor. He propped her against the wall beneath the shower head, then turned the controls to their hottest setting. The water, which had already been warm, swiftly increased in temperature until it became scalding. He then started the chainsaw and cut Mia into pieces with the practiced efficiency of a professional butcher. Art turned away from her, started the chainsaw again, and went after Cole. He continued crawling the entire time. Art had been fighting to get the chainsaw free from her hair, and he'd actually managed to get out of the stall. He hadn't made it far, of course, and Mia watched as Art reached him and gazed downward as if contemplating what to do to Cole next. Cole looked up, saw Art, and began pleading for his life, voice weak and filled with fear. "No, please, you don't have to do this." Art nodded vigorously as if to say, "Oh yes, I do." He swung the chainsaw blade between Cole's ass cheeks and began cutting through his spine all the way to his head, blood spraying the air and Cole's body writhing and jerking. When the chainsaw came out the other end, the two halves of Cole separated, internal organs spilling out between them. Art pointed at Cole's bisected remains and laughed silently, miming wiping away tears with his free hand, the chainsaw still going. When he returned his gaze to Mia, his face lost all expression. Features became slack and emotionless. Mia knew she was seeing his true face for the first time. Art walked slowly toward her, taking his time, scenting the air as he came. "He's smelling my scalded flesh," she thought. He crouched down in front of Mia and leaned forward until their faces were only inches apart. Her left eye was swollen shut, but her right was partially open, and she watched as Art removed the Christmas tree sunglasses. Black lips drew back from rotten teeth in a savage grin, and he opened his eyes wide and leaned even closer so she could get a good look at them. I want to know what it's like to be in the presence of that kind of evil. What goes through your mind when you're close enough to feel his breath on your body? What does he smell like? What do you see when you look into his eyes? Is there a soul?" His breath smelled like congealed blood and rotting meat, and in those cold, dead eyes, she saw exactly what was inside him. She wanted to scream and keep screaming until her vocal cords ruptured and her heart burst, but she didn't have the strength. Art slipped the Christmas tree sunglasses over his eyes, then gently booped her partially detached nose. Art stood and then, almost as if taking pity on her, swung the chainsaw into her side and cut her in half at the waist, ending her torment as well as her life. Her spirit, no longer limited by her flesh, screamed across the whole of the creation as she plummeted into endless night. When it was over, the shower floor was covered in crimson from wall to wall. Red was such a festive color, and it inspired Art to put down his chainsaw and make a blood angel. He lay down on the tile and began sweeping his arms and legs through the thick, wet stuff. He smiled and closed his eyes in contentment. Christmas was so much fun. Okay, we are getting there. Yeah, this is the best death scene, I think, in the movie too. It's the most like Terrifier-ish, to me. It's like the signature scene. I mean, nothing wrong, him freezing the Santa and like bashing his hands in is like good fun and everything like that. But this is the scene that feels like the marquee, moment. Let's see here. What's happening, Nicholas? How are you doing? Merry Christmas to you and yours, bud. Hope you're having a good one. Let's see here. I think, okay. This is a very quick chapter here. Okay, we can do this, right? Yeah, we can do this. 14 pages left, guys. Are you with me? Are you with me, people? Okay, let's keep on rolling. Chapter 22. Okay, remind me how to play this again? It's been a while, Sienna said. At least 5 years, maybe longer, she thought. She and Gabby sat on the living room floor, setting up the Pictionary board while Greg sat on the couch in a white t-shirt and jeans, watching a Wall Street-centered drama on TV and complaining every time the writers got something wrong. Oh my God, that is not what an expense ratio is. Gabby shook her head. It's his favorite show to hate watch. Sienna felt strange hanging out with her family, as if everything was okay, when she knew Art and Victoria were out there somewhere, plotting their attack on her. It might not come tonight, might not come for a week or a month, but it was coming. She'd gotten her sword back, and right now there was nothing she could do but wait and worry about Jonathan. She tried calling and texting him a few more times, but without any reply. She hoped he was having too much fun at the Christmas party to check his phone, but the continued lack of response from him bothered her. Gabby picked up the short booklet from that outlined the game's rules and started reading. Wait, we need more players. It's 2 people to a team. Mom will be here in a minute, but we need Dad too. She raised her voice. Dad, come play with us. Greg didn't answer. Sienna saw that a news bulletin had replaced his show. A black anchor in a suit and tie sat at a desk holding several fleshy printed pages, freshly printed pages, and looking directly at the camera. Goddamn Terrifier. His face carefully composed to hide his feelings, but Sienna could see both fear and concern in the man's eyes. Whatever he was reporting on had shaken him. She had a bad feeling about this. Dad? Gabby said. Greg didn't look away from the TV screen. My God, he said softly. Alarmed by the tone in Greg's voice, Sienna and Gabby stood and went over to join him. Special report was displayed at the bottom of the TV screen in large red capital letters. Over his left shoulder was a graphic of a Christmas wreath with a yellow crime scene tape stretched across it. What's wrong? Gabby asked. Images of scorched rubble replaced the anchor's face, and it took Sienna a moment to realize she was looking at the mall's common area. And when she saw broken ornaments and Christmas tree branches among the debris, she realized with horror that she was looking at the remains of Santa's village. The anchor spoke as the video showed the destruction from different angles. 10 people have been declared dead at the time, and 8 more in critical condition. The explosion went off around 5 p.m. this afternoon in the Centerville Mall as children gathered around the Holiday Santa display. No suspects are in custody at this time, as the investigation is still underway. What is it? Gabby asked. A terrorist attack? Greg answered without taking his eyes off the screen. I don't know, baby. The picture on the TV shifted to a middle-aged man with black hair and a mustache, wearing a leather jacket over a green hoodie. His face ashen, eyes wide with shock. Close? I was pretty damn close. Too close for my liking. But anyway, here's what I saw. There was this guy, and he was dressed as Santa Claus, and he was handing out presents to kids, every little kid who was there. I heard a commotion, and then I saw a security guard leading this guy out, and then blam! There was an explosion right there. Holy shit! Jess walked into the room then, and her attention was immediately caught by the images on TV. She joined the rest of them in front of the screen. What's going on? She asked. Sienna remembered Art in his Santa outfit and vacuum form mask, wiggling his fingers at her in greeting. He's here, she said. It's not safe. The confidence she'd felt after her trip to retrieve the sword had left her, and she began backing away from the TV as if she thought Art might climb out in any second and come at her. Greg looked at her. Who's here? He asked. The Miles County Clown. I saw him today. Greg and Jess exchanged a quick look. Then Jess went to Sienna and put a hand on her arm. Sienna, calm down, she said. Sienna heard the tension in Jess's voice and knew her aunt feared she was on the verge of a breakdown. I saw him, Sienna insisted. I didn't want to say anything because I knew you wouldn't believe me, but it's him. I'm sure of it. He did this, and he's going to come for us. She'd imagined having to face Art on her own like last time, her sword against whatever weapon he chose to wield. But she'd never imagined he'd ever use something like an explosive device. What would stop him from sneaking into their house one night when they were all asleep, planting a bomb or bombs, and leaving before detonation? How could she fight against that with a damn sword? Gabby's eyes were wide with fear. Not fear of Art, Sienna realized, but fear of her. Gabby turned away from Sienna and looked to Jess for reassurance and comfort that only her mother could provide. Mom? excuse me. Jess went to Gabby and wrapped her arms around her, but she felt her eyes on Sienna as if she were afraid of her too. Their reactions filled Sienna with sorrow, but she couldn't think about that now. She had to get through to them before it was too late. None of you are safe as long as I'm here. Do you understand? We have to get as far away from here as possible. Greg got out of his chair and Jess left Gabby, rushed over to Sienna and grabbed hold of her upper arms. Sienna, you're scaring Gabby, Jess said. Stop it. She should be scared, Sienna thought. You all should. I have to call Jonathan, she said. Please, we have to bring him here. Please. Jonathan, sweetie, wake up. We need to talk, and we don't have much time. Jonathan did not want to wake. He liked not thinking, not feeling, not doing or being anything here in the comforting darkness. Oh, gotcha. Being anything here in the comforting darkness. He'd stay here forever if he could, where there were no killer clowns or demonic little girls. Sure, there were no friends here either, and no family. No Sienna. Jonathan, wake up. You're late for class. Jonathan's eyes shot open and he sat up in bed. He turned and saw his mother kneeling by the bedside. She looked like she had before Art had done what he did to her. And he felt a complex mix of love, grief, joy, and disbelief. I'm dreaming, he said. Mom shrugged. There's not as much difference between dreams and real life as people think. Jonathan remembered how the little pale girl had tried to deceive Sienna by pretending to be their mother, and he drew back. Mom smiled. It's okay. I'm really me. You can feel it, can't you? He couldn't explain it or understand how it worked, but he knew deep down in his soul that this was his mother. Tears filled his eyes, and he reached out and hugged her. She hugged him back. She was warm and solid and felt very much alive, but he knew she wasn't. He pulled back and wiped his eyes with his sleeve. I've missed you so much. I've missed you too. So has Dad. He says hi, by the way. He'd be there too, but he has other things to... Oh, he'd be here too, but he has other things to do. Why are you here? Why haven't you visited before? It's been 5 years. Has it really? Time flies when you're dead. Like I said, we don't have long. I snuck out from the place where I'm at, and I have to get back before I'm missed. I need to tell you something before I do, something important. You're going to need to be strong soon, stronger than you've ever thought you could be. I'm sorry to put this on you, Jonathan, but so much depends on it. Can you do that? Jonathan had no idea what she was talking about, but nodded and said, I'll try my best. Mom smiled and touched the cheek that Art had cut 5 years ago in the Terrifier. You've grown up so much. I wish I could have been there for you and your sister, but I'm glad Jess and Greg took care of you both. Her smile fell away and she lowered her hand. I'm so sorry for what you've got to go through. It's not fair, but then not much in life or death is. We do what we can and to hell with the rest, right? I love you. Never forget that. Okay, you can wake up for real now. You need to answer your phone. Jonathan opened his eyes. He sat up, turned to look for Mom, and saw she wasn't there. His phone was ringing. He picked it up to see that Sienna was calling. Okay, so interesting. Because I think in the movie, we get the that kind of interference on the phone when Sienna or whoever, maybe it is Greg, that ends up talking to Jonathan. We get that interference that sort of, I think to the audience kind of says this is Victoria imitating Jonathan. Especially with what we find in the, out in the final act of the film. But here it does sound like, at least for now, Jonathan is alive and presumably will answer the phone. So I'm curious to see what they do here in this next chapter. And this will be the last one of the day. And it's about 8 pages long, so not so bad. So I'm going to have a couple sips of water and then we'll wrap this thing up. And it'll be a relatively, tomorrow I'm going to hop on at some point to finish this book. But we'll have 24, 25, 26, 27. So we'll have 4 chapters to read tomorrow. I think we got through, 6 today? 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, so taking care of most of it today, and then we'll hop on for a quick little stream tomorrow. That one's going to be members only. So I know it's going to be, maybe an even more intimate stream, but we'll finish the book nonetheless. How about it? Okay, here we go. Chapter 23. We're on page 227 of 270. How about it? Hello? Jonathan, it's Uncle Greg. Jonathan was surprised at first, but then he realized Greg must have been using Sienna's phone. Uncle Greg, what's going on? Is everything okay? Not really, man. Look, your sister's freaking out over here. She just saw something on the news that really upset her, and she's adamant about getting you over here as soon as possible. She thinks you're in danger. Why? Jonathan asked. What did she see? There was an explosion nearby. A few people were killed. I don't know, but it's bad. Jonathan heard Sienna's voice in the background. I want to talk to him, she said. He heard a rustling sound as Greg handed the phone to Sienna. Sienna? Jonathan, it's him. I know it's him. Please let Uncle Greg come and get you. You're not safe. Jonathan had never heard her sound so scared before, and that, in turn, scared him. Okay, I'll come over. Calm down. Did you get it? He wasn't on speaker, and he knew no one but Sienna could hear him, but he still didn't feel right saying the sword over the phone. Yes. Good. As long as Sienna had the sword, they had a fighting chance. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, Sienna said, sounding relieved. She handed the phone back to Greg. I'll pick you up, man. Just tell me where to meet you. Jonathan put his phone down on the bed and sat for a moment, thinking of his dream. He hadn't said anything to Sienna about it because he didn't want her to worry about him more than she already was. He wished Mom's warning had been more specific, but maybe she'd said all she could say, all she was going to say. One thing about Mom, when she had something on her mind, she'd start talking and no one could stop her until she'd gotten it all out. The thought made him smile, but the smile quickly faded when he sensed something was wrong. Really wrong. Whatever it was, he felt it pulling at him, urging him to get up and move. Was this part of what Mom had talked about? Probably. And if he wanted to learn more about what was happening, he needed to track down the source of this strange compulsion. He also sensed that whatever was calling him, it was dangerous, and he'd been better off walking out of the dorm and getting as far away from campus as he could. But he'd told Mom that he'd try his best to be strong, and he wasn't a little kid anymore. Hell, he'd been through more shit than most people had to deal with in a lifetime. He could do this. He had to. He stood and headed for the door. As he reached for the knob, a voice inside him told him not to do this, but he ignored it and stepped into the hall. He didn't know what time it was, hadn't thought to check his phone, and like an idiot, he'd left it on his bed. He almost went back to get it, but the compulsion had too strong a hold on him now, and he started walking. The hall was empty at the moment, and he figured everyone was probably still at the beta party. Good. That meant he wouldn't have to deal with anyone asking him where he was going. Not that he could give them an answer. Drawn to the stairwell, he walked up 2 levels to one of the women's floors and entered the hallway there. He continued walking, passing room after room, none of them the place to which he was being called. When he came to the entrance of the women's showers, he stopped. This was it. The compulsion was almost painful now. He needed to go inside, but he hesitated. If he went in there and got caught, everyone would think he was a creeper, and he'd likely get kicked out of school. Maybe he'd even end up a registered sex offender. But he promised Mom. He opened the door and stepped inside. He heard water running, and he almost turned around and left. But he was too close now and couldn't turn away from this course if he wanted to. His feet seemed to move on their own volition, carrying him past one empty stall after another until he reached the one with the water running. Fear gripped him when he saw a large smear of blood on the floor outside the stall, and the glass door had been shattered. The stall was filled with steam from hot water, and he could just barely make out a dim form over the shower head. Hello? He called. Is everything okay? Are you hurt? No reply. Knowing it was probably the most foolish thing he'd ever done in his life, but unable to stop himself, he entered the stall. Broken glass on the floor, more blood. As he drew close to the figure in the mist, he was careful to stay out of the spray. He could feel the heat from the water on his skin, and he didn't want to get scalded. He was nearly close enough to get a good look at whoever was standing there, and he suddenly felt like someone had punched him hard in the gut. The person was actually 2 people, Cole and Mia. Their bodies had been disassembled and rearranged into a single amalgamation A single amalgamation with 2 heads, 4 arms, and 4 legs, the parts pinned together with lengths of broken bone. And they weren't standing. Their combined bodies had been impaled on the shower head, like a specimen of a rare insect pinned to a mounting board for study, and the arrangement made it seem as if the water sprayed from the center of their shared chest. Sienna lay on the side of her bed, the covers pulled up to her neck. Aunt Jess sat beside her, stroking her hair. Sienna didn't turn to look at Jess as she said, "You're going to send me back to the hospital, aren't you?" "No, sweetie, we're not going to send you back." Jess sounded as if she truly believed this, but Sienna knew on some level she had to be considering it, for Gabby's sake, if no other reason. "I just don't want to lose you," she said. The deaths of Mom, Dad, Brooke, and Addie had broken her, and it had taken a long time for her to learn to live with what had happened to them. She didn't think she could withstand that kind of grief and guilt again if Art killed Jonathan, Gabby, Jess, and Greg. They were all the family she had left. "Nothing's going to happen to us, Sienna," Jess said. "We're safe. And so are you. I just want you to get some sleep." Sienna thought there was no way she'd be able to sleep, but a powerful drowsiness came over her then. She tried to fight it, but her eyelids grew heavy, and when she spoke next, her voice was barely more than a whisper, and her words were slightly slurred. "Will you wake me when Jonathan gets here, please?" "I will," Jess said. "I promise." Sienna closed her eyes and allowed her aunt's gentle touch to relax her. "That's it," Jess said. "Sleep, baby." Sleep sounded like a magnificent idea right then, and Sienna surrendered to it. Jessica came downstairs as Greg was putting on his jacket. "I gave her something to help her sleep," Jess said. She told Sienna the pill was a mild sedative, something to take the edge off her anxiety. Not exactly a lie, but not the whole truth either. It had been a strong sedative. She felt bad about deceiving Sienna, but she feared that if she'd told her niece that the medicine would knock her out, she'd refuse to take it. "Good," Greg said. He started toward the front door, but Jess grabbed his hand and stopped him. "You were right," she said. He gave her a gentle kiss. "We'll talk when I get back," he said. "Call me if anything happens." She nodded and he left. She watched through the front door as he backed out of the driveway and then headed down the street. She knew what she'd done had been in Sienna's best interest. So why did she feel like such a shit? Jess went upstairs to check on Gabby, who was lying on top of the bed's covers and gazing up at the ceiling. Jess walked into the room and sat on the bed next to her. "Hey, sweetie, you okay?" Gabby sat up. "Where's Sienna?" "She's sleeping." "She's going to go back to the hospital, isn't she?" Gabby sounded as if she was fighting to hold back tears. Jess took both of Gabby's hands in hers. "I don't know, baby," she said. "I don't want her to, but if she's not well, we have to do what's best for her. Or maybe we want to do what we think is best, or at least easiest, for us." "What if she's right?" Gabby said. "What if the Miles County Clown is back?" "He's not, Gabs. Sienna's just scared. You're safe, and nothing's going to happen to any of us. Just get some sleep. Daddy and Jonathan will be home soon." She kissed Gabby on the top of her head. "I love you." Gabby managed a small smile. "Love you too, Mom." Jess left Gabby's room and headed back downstairs to wait for Greg and Jonathan. What if she's right? What if the Miles County Clown is back? "What if?" Jess whispered. It's the middle of the goddamn night and I'm driving to campus to pick up my nephew because my niece, who's not been out of the mental hospital for a couple days, is having a breakdown. And it's almost Christmas. Happy fucking holidays. Greg knew what was happening to Sienna wasn't her fault. She really had been a victim of Art the Clown, as had her mother and her 2 closest friends. That was enough to fuck up anyone for life. More than enough. Sienna was like a second daughter to him in many ways, and he loved her. Maybe he was overreacting. Sienna hadn't really begun to make the transition to life outside the hospital. She hadn't started the regular therapy appointments that were part of her treatment plan, and she might need to have to adjust. Oh my gosh. She might need to have her meds adjusted, take a more potent dose, or switch to something more effective. But what she needed most of all was time, and that seemed to be the one thing he was unwilling to give her. A big part of that was Gabby. He kept seeing the frightened look on her face as she watched her beloved cousin insist Art was coming to kill all of them. He wanted to help Sienna, but he needed to keep Gabby from becoming traumatized in the process. He didn't know how he'd be able to accomplish both. Greg reached Westview's main entrance, pulled in, and drove around the campus until he reached the dorms. He entered the visitors' parking lot, drove past an empty guard booth, guess the college doesn't want to pay money to have anyone work late nights, and parked in a space near the old building that Jonathan had chosen as their meeting place. He left the engine running as he called Jonathan to let him know he was there, but Jonathan didn't answer, and the call went to voicemail. Shit. Greg disconnected and tossed his phone on the passenger seat. It had been over an hour since Greg had spoken to Jonathan. He'd had plenty of time to pack up stuff he'd need for his stay, and he should have been out there waiting when Greg arrived, but he wasn't. The phone rang, startling him. He picked it up and saw Jonathan's name on the screen. Jonathan, I'm here. Hey, Uncle Greg, where are you? I don't see you. Fluorescent lights illuminated the lot, and Greg had parked directly under one. Jonathan shouldn't have any trouble seeing him. I'm parked right outside the dorm. Flynn building, right? Jonathan didn't reply. Hello? Jonathan, can you hear me? There was a long pause, and then Jonathan said, I'll be right there. He disconnected before Greg could say anything more. The last word he'd spoken, there, had been distorted. Probably just some kind of interference with the signal, but the sound had been creepy as hell. Greg slipped the phone into his pants pocket. The more he thought about it, the more he realized how strange Jonathan had sounded, almost as if it had been someone else on the phone. But that was ridiculous. It had been Jonathan's voice that he heard. Maybe Jonathan was simply worried about his sister. Yeah, that was probably it. Greg settled back against his seat and turned the warm air higher. It was cold out tonight, and it was about to get a whole lot colder. There was a knock on the driver's side window, and Greg turned, fully expecting to see Jonathan standing there. But what he saw was something out of a nightmare. A woman with a horribly mutilated face slathered with white makeup and a crown of honest-to-God thorns on her head. She leaned her face close to the window. Boo, she said. The passenger side window shattered, and Greg turned to see Art the Clown, dressed in a fucking Santa suit of all things, thrust his head and shoulders through the opening and reach for him with blood-covered hands. And there we go. That is chapter 23. So we are closing in. We are at page 235. That means there's just 35 pages left. Holy cow. And look at that. 4:59. I said I had to be wrapped up by 5. I am going to hop in the shower, get cleaned up, make myself look as pretty as possible. I ended up getting a haircut today. So hopefully I can look handsome for the fam. And yeah. This was fun, guys. Thank you so much for kicking it with me. Almost 2 hours of reading. So hopefully the family is boisterous and loud enough to where I can just smile and nod and sit in the corner and enjoy the Christmas vibes and maybe sing a little bit with them as well. So yeah, thank you all so very much for joining me. Holy cow, man. On Christmas Eve, we still got 11 people kicking it during this stream here, the story time stream, which have been like, these streams have been pretty all right. I know it's not usually what I do on the channel, so I totally understand that. But I know the folks that have been tuning in for these, and even some people, I got a comment on one of them the other day where, one of our, was it Papa John? It might have been Papa John. Somebody had commented, I'm sitting in the airport, my flights have been delayed, but at least I've got like these streams that I can catch up on and listen to you read this book. So that's really awesome to, that's what it's all about with content creation, but even cooler when something can be used so specifically during this time of year. So hopefully, these silly Terrifier 3 streams bring you guys some joy. I hope you have a lovely rest of your Christmas Eve. I hope you have a beautiful Christmas Day as well. I'll be back to finish the book sometime tomorrow. And then Stranger Things, Part 2. We're going to dive into that tomorrow. So if you're not already following on the Discord, just look it up, Davey Deathray Discord. I don't think there are any mods in here now. I'll share a link. So if you guys aren't part of the Discord, but you want to join, you can do that. So let me grab the link here. Invite to server. There we go. Okay. So the link will expire in 7 days. So if you're watching this, a week or more after the fact, which I think is probably unlikely, you can use that link there, the Discord link here, to join for free, totally free. We hang out over there. We watch movies over there. It's really fun. And yeah, we're going to be watching Stranger Things Part 2 tomorrow. So tune in, hang out with us. It's going to be a total blast. And yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your holidays. And we will see you sometime soon. I don't know when I'm going to be back live. But if I end up going up to Flagstaff for the weekend, it should be some really fun, exciting shit. There will be probably some amount of vlogging going on, and I'm going to bring my whole setup. Heard they have great Wi-Fi up at the cabin that I'm looking to go to. So there will be, if I end up being up there, there will be a stream up at a cabin. So Davey in a cabin in the woods. What could fucking go wrong, right? So anywho, I love you guys so very much. Merry Christmas to you all, and we will see you next time around. But you know how this goes. First off, before I leave, I got to say thank you so much to all the Patreon members, the YouTube channel members, our amazing group of Death Squad mods. You all are awesome, but I love all of you. Even if this is your very first time checking out a stream, all the love to you and yours. I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas. And until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.